Hi there, it's Emma and welcome to Sax Bites, the 5-minute saxophone lesson podcast. Today I am answering a very simple, yet kind of a little bit complicated question. How long is a staccato? So all my musicians, all my saxophone players out there know that a staccato is a short note, short and detached. But I often get young students asking me, well, how long is short? And I mean, it bends my brain a little bit thinking of that. Well, how long is short? But it's a valid question because I think as teachers, we take for granted some of the things that we explain to students. We take for granted some of the things that we do all the time that when you're new to this may not make sense. With staccato notes, we want to think about creating the short sound through the rearticulation of the end of the note. What does that mean? Well, regular tonguing on the saxophone is a da or ta, whatever syllable your teacher may use. I know different teachers use T's or D's. But the start of the note is the one where the tongue touches the reed. And then the end of the note is open. It is just air moving through. Ta, ta, ta. Beautiful singing there. Sorry about that. But the note is an open-ended sound and we sustain the air through the tonguing and we keep that open-ended. That's regular tonguing. When we think about staccato, we want to think about the tongue rearticulating on the reed, like a dut, D-U-T, or if you want D-U-H-T. Different ways to think about it. Dut. Dut. If you even just say that to yourself now, you'll feel your tongue start at the roof of your mouth and then go back to the roof of your mouth at the end of the syllable there. Dut. By conceptualizing staccato that way, we're able to create a really very short sound. So we want to think of a staccato as kind of as short as possible. That's the way I like to explain it to students because I find they still don't get it quite as short as I would like. So I want them to aim for something really quite short. So here's the thing though. If we're putting our tongue back on the reed at the end of the note, we're dampening the vibrations twice effectively per note, if we think about it that way. So let's say you have 4 staccato notes in a row. Dut, 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 dut. The vibrations of the reed are dampened at the beginning, at like the end of every note, are constantly being dampened. So we need to make sure that the reed is kicking back into vibrating correctly as fast as possible. And that's really important because that's what is actually going to give staccato notes a full, rich sound despite being very short. And this is where students get stuck because they get the dut sound, they get the tongue position, but their airflow behind the tongue is not fast enough or strong enough to get the reed moving again so that the tone has substance, it has depth to the sound. And so their staccatos can sound a little bit wimpy, a little bit kind of buzzy in tone sometimes, or even just a little bit like empty in their tone. And that's really frustrating because their teacher's going, I don't like the way that sounds. Simple solution. The one thing that I just constantly say that I know all sax teachers constantly say, probably all woodwind teachers to be honest, more air. Get the air moving fast behind the tongue. Now, earlier I mentioned D-U-T versus D-U-H-T. Well, if you want to have a little bit more flexibility in your staccato, let's say you're a bit more of a high level player and in some context you want kind of a little bit longer of a staccato. That's where I like to think of my staccatos as dart, D-U-H-T, and that conceptualization means I hold the note for just a fraction of a second longer, probably not even a 1/10 of a second, maybe like a 100th of a second. This is like Formula One timings here. But that slight extra length gives the center of the note a little bit more weight. It's like a fat staccato. And again, that all comes from the air. So staccato is really twofold here. It's the tongue position and the rearticulation of the end of the note, considering both the beginning and the ends of notes, but then also ensuring the airflow is optimized so the center of the note has depth and quality to the sound. It's very, very complicated for one tiny little dot on top of notes, but definitely something worth exploring and is a perfect warm-up activity, playing around with your staccato playing. It's perfect to start a session. So have a go at your staccato practice this week. Report back, let me know how you go. And if your teacher uses a different syllable than D or T or has a different way of explaining, I want to hear about it. Please give us an email. Give us a follow and a subscribe. It really helps us out. And until next time, this has been Sax Bites, the 5-minute saxophone lesson podcast. Bye-bye.